Hello, trying to fix my laptop here, and you see this is the motherboard where the power plugs in right there. It was something broke inside, so it was not charging the battery, not cutting power when I didn't have the battery in it. So I went ahead and bought a new one here, and you can see how this works. I didn't know when I bought it. It wasn't that much money, but I wanted to have one when I went to fix it. But when this pushes in, it pushes that back to the other side. But I watched a video on how to fix these things on YouTube, and what it looks like is very common is this pin, it forms a crack right up here along the top. And sure enough, when I got my laptop apart, that's what had looked like had happened. And that's because, well, his theory is because if this heat sink from the fan, that gets hot when your laptops gets hot, and since that's right next door to it, the expansion of the heat is eventually what cracks that. But what I did was I didn't really want to have to replace the whole thing if I didn't have to. So what I did was, here, let me show you if I can get the tripod stable, is, come on. What I did was, I've got this soldering iron, and you can see it's got kind of a tip, a sharp point to it. And I didn't want to have to take the whole heat sink off and everything. So what I did was I just took my soldering point, or tip, soldering iron, and held it right there at the base, the body side of that pin. And then I held the solder on the other side, because you always want to melt the solder to the part, not to the tip. And I just held it there, and it took, you have to be really patient because there's just a tiny point there contacting until it heats up, and eventually it melted the solder right onto that pin. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, sorry about this camera, it doesn't like to focus up close on the macro, but it soldered a pretty good joint there. It's actually better than it looks like on the camera. So I'm going to put the thing back together, and I'll just leave a comment on the video when I post the video on if that worked or not. But yeah, that seemed to work. And I tried testing it with my multimeter here to see if the crack was actually keeping it from contacting. I put one lead on the pin inside, and it looked like it was there was continuity between there, and I tried kind of bending it, but when I got the magnifying glass out and looked at it, that works pretty good. When I looked at it, then it seemed like, oh boy, that looks like a big blob, but it's actually not. It seemed like it was for sure cracked right there. So that's, hopefully that works, because that's way easier than desoldering that entire thing. I'm going to see if I can clean up in that fan area too before I put it back together. Another thing that wasn't really mentioned on the other videos, that if anybody else takes this model apart, is when you pull these ribbons out, the one for the screen, this one, it's like you pull it straight out before it releases it, like that. And then on these other ones, where they are, these you have to lift up. So you have to lift up on that to release the ribbon. And then on the sound jack, which I read a comment that people had a hard time getting the sound jack apart. Let me show you what that looks like here. that is this guy right here. That's the sound. So what I found works really well is if you take 2 screwdrivers and you kind of get them in there at the same time with both hands and just kind of pop it off on both sides, and you can get it popped off really gently without yanking on it or anything. And another couple things I learned was those screws in the very back of the, let's see, you can see what's going on here. The very back of the case, these guys do like to break. This guy's broken here, and that's why that just spins. But yeah, that plastic back there gets brittle and just breaks. Okay, so I think that's about it. I'm going to put this guy back together and keep my fingers crossed that it all works out well. Good luck to anybody else fixing this. This is an ASUS a53, and yeah. Alright, good luck.